I am over professional development here at ACERO. Today I'm coming from very sunny Tucson, and we are so delighted. We've been working on this for a while to have this wonderful webinar about assessment with this fabulous, wonderful woman that I have known for years. It's Martha, and we're so excited that she is here. So before she gets started, we're going to have a few housekeeping items, and then I'll turn to who you came to see. First thing that you need to know is that this is part of what's called the GoToWebinar system. That means that you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. If you're just with a group or you're working and you're doing other things, we cannot hear a word that you're saying, so go along with that. If you have any questions throughout the session, you want to put it into the question box, and I will be around as your Vanna for the afternoon to answer any questions as we go along. But like I said, please put the questions into the box. I would say as soon as something, put it into the box. That way that your question will be answered before the end of the hour. This is also something that's called the ACERO Professional Development Webinar Series. Here's a couple of things that are coming up in the next few weeks. We've got a few other things coming up in November as well. That will actually be on what's called our new ACERO YouTube channel. We have more interviews, book talks, and podcasts that will be listed all for free on our YouTube channel. So if you want to get more information or even get this webinar recording, you want to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's it below. Don't worry about if you can't remember it. Once you get the recording, we will have that listed as well. And if, like I said, if you want to be the next webinar presenter, or you have a book coming up or an interview or anything like that, you want to get in touch with me, Elena, at enorland@acero.org. Finally, we have an ACERO Principles of Conduct. That just means that we want you to play well with others when you come and visit any of our ACERO content. If you have any questions or concerns, you want to get in touch with me, Elena, or any of our staff or board members, and we will get back to you shortly. So without further ado, I'm taking you to who you came to see, which is Martha. Enjoy the webinar, and I will be back to you. Thank you.
Okay, I need to show my screen. I click on show my screen and guide me, Elena. I know we've been through this.
Yes, so you have two screens up right now. We can see your slides on the second one, but the go-to one is still open as well.
And where do I click to change what
if you could do the first screen is still open. If you could go to the second screen.
So where do I click to go to the second screen?
Not sure, because the first screen is also, we see a dual first and second screen right now.
Correct. I'm trying to understand which button I should click to change the setting.
Not sure, because like I said, usually people have one screen up at a time. I can take away and then give it back to you.
I wonder if I should go back to the presenter, because before I was able to.
Okay, we can do that.
I found it where it was.
Oh, okay.
So I need to show, I believe it was monitor 2. Are you seeing monitor 2 now?
No, we still see the two screens.
What about now?
Yes, we do.
Which version? What are you seeing now?
Just the slides. The slides. We are seeing the slides.
That's good. Okay. Sorry. We did test it, but really happy to be here. Elena and I always look forward to finding ways to collaborate. Just a reminder that I am a library consultant, and Quality Metrics is the organization I'm working with. And a little bit about my journey. I came from Greece to the US on a Fulbright. I worked for a number of years, 22 years at the Association of Research Libraries. And in 2016, I established Quality Metrics. Always passionate about libraries and the service quality. It's actually what led me to developing many of the tools in the qual library of tools that ARL had for a number of years and is retiring this year. As we have engaged in developing assessment tools, we also established a conference with 2 other member institutions way back in 2006, the Library Assessment Conference. And effective, sustainable, and practical assessment was the subheader we had thoughtfully chosen when we first proposed and organized the Library Assessment Conference in 2006. That event took place in Charlottesville, Virginia. And I wanted to focus on the subtitle, as we are all challenged these days to be effective, sustainable, and practical. Transition and transformation in our libraries is happening everywhere, and it's happening in our assessment programs. And what was a subheader once, it is becoming a main header now. Some of you may feel like the end of The Great Gatsby. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Same concept also is expressed by the term Sankofa. Sankofa is a word and symbol from the Akan people of Ghana that means to go back and get it, and encourages learning from the past to build a better future. And in the movie, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you may remember Willy Wonka saying, you can't get out backwards. You've got to go forwards to go back. A paradoxical and nonsensical statement reflecting Wonka's eccentric and surreal worldview. And it means to exit the factory, literally, one must progress through it in the intended direction to reach the exit. And metaphorically, it basically means simply you cannot undo an experience. The transition and transformation that is taking place in the ways the Library Assessment Conference will be offered in the future, and in the ways LibCall, Climate Call, and Minds for Libraries and similar tools that we had developed a few years ago is shifting from being available through the established nonprofit structure of the Association of Research Libraries to what I call an interest-based community approach. Transition and transformation is also evident in the ways we are being called to ensure that the assessment we are doing is truly effective, sustainable, and practical. By effective, we want to ensure that it delivers benefit. By sustainable, we want to ensure that the evidence and the data are available in some form to the community. You know, for example, as we make a LibCall open, that's the platform, not the data. So the community needs to come together and decide how the compilation of the data will be accessible in the future too. And by practical, we want to ensure that the assessment informs real decision making in impactful ways, and we'll show some examples. Here you can see the outline, kind of the LibCall evolution way back from 2000 when we got the FIPSI grant to what is going to be in 2026 a community asset. It has certain parallels with the way the library assessment content evolved through our various events. In the Library Assessment Conference, I would characterize the early years, and probably the early years go before 2006 when our first event happened, but the early phase from the organization of the first event, you know, one can say covers 2006 to 2010. It was a phase of establishing the library assessment practice in our libraries. The early years focused on building the assessment community, establishing the tools and frameworks, the surveys, the methods we were engaging with, addressed foundational issues, like things like user satisfaction and what is service quality and how do we capture library as place and organizational climate. Then the agenda shifted towards aligning assessment with learning outcomes, space design, value and impact. Megan's landmark ACRL study on the value of academic libraries is worth mentioning here. Organizational performance. Growing sophistication and diversification characterizes the next phase, and I would place it around 2012 to 2018. The conference themes matured and broadened during that phase. Assessment moved beyond are we doing it to how are we doing it and how does it integrate with institutional and strategic outcomes. The scope widened to collections, digital services, user experience, partnerships and consortia, analytics, and value communication. The recent phase, the 2020 to 2024, our events were virtual. Two of the events were virtual because of the COVID experience. And I would characterize that phase as the integrated, advanced, and emergent themes phase. The themes of this phase reflect both maturity in the assessment tools, in the program evaluation approaches, and in the institutional metrics, as well as emerging concerns. Artificial intelligence, environmental sustainability, equity and inclusion, open access, community, and collaboration. The assessment agenda in that phase becomes more deeply integrated with strategy, technology trends, ethical and values concerns, and broader institutional impacts. And as we are moving through the transition, you will notice that we will not have a library assessment conference next year. If you are a member of the ARL Assess listserv, you received an email from the ARL Executive Director that the plan is to offer a larger event focusing on research library impact in 2028. So through these events you see here, and through these gatherings listed here, the Library Assessment Conference being one of them, we have seen similar themes evolving. Some of you may be attending, for example, this year, the Southeastern Library Assessment Conference, which is a more regional event. There is also the Canadian Library Assessment gathering that's taking place. And I will mention here a conference that is happening every year, that is still happening in different libraries. It rotates from location to location, led through the leadership of the renowned Susan Nutter at North Carolina State University, and Tom Hickerson and John Lippincott from CNI, the Designing Libraries Conference, a conference that focuses on user experience and space and redesigning the services within those spaces. The Rochester event just finished, and some of the videos are available online. They are worth your attention. So this is to say that the evolution I've described on the Library Assessment Conference is basically reflected in some of these other community gatherings. So I'm going to show you some examples of library improvement efforts that are supported through evidence and data. And the key elements, I think, is that I'm going to use a couple live call examples primarily, And I'm going to emphasize the design elements on these examples. So the first example, which I call it based on good design. Sometimes if you have the simple open comments box, you can get very lucky and you can get very powerful comments like the one this library received. The library is one of the most oppressively depressing locations on the face of the earth. Its ugly decor and offensive lighting gnaw at the soul, and the carpeting is an invitation to madness. And this can be turned into a sizable investment. For this library, it did lead to a 14 million renovation. And it included expanding the collection, increasing the study space, and of course, replacing the carpet. So simple, good design surveys can give you very powerful comments sometimes, like this one. At the same time, some libraries have been, and some leaders have been more purposeful in using systematic annual capturing of their user perceptions. And I call that improvements associated with library space transformations that are based on design thinking in the assessment process. And I'm going to give you an example of a library. I'm going to go back and forth on these slides a little bit. I'm going to give you an example of a library that had multiple participations in the LibQual survey. You can see here 2004, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012. So you can see almost annually at a certain point, and 2012, 2013. Oops, here, the last one. I'm going to go back. These are multiple participations over a number of years. So there was a design thinking approach to the implementation of the assessment, and that's what I want to emphasize. On the results you are seeing here, remember that red is kind of not so good performance in your results. You are not meeting people's minimum expectations when you see red in the charts. The more blue you have, the better the results. And if you have any green, you are exceeding people's expectations. So in the early years, the serial crisis is a lot of where we saw the red happening. Almost every library in the early years was not meeting expectations, definitely for the faculty when it comes to providing content, because they had an insatiable need for consuming content like journal articles. But this specific library, as they moved forward, you start seeing 2009, they did get a little better than 2008, but then suddenly you see all of that red in 2010. What is happening there? They're going through a renovation. Things get worse before they get better when you go through a major renovation and construction. And in this leader's approach in designing the assessment, they wanted to be able to capture that evolution. That's why it was important to continue to have this information. And 2011, renovation was still going on. There is still red, especially in the library's space dimension, which is that area of the radar chart where the spokes with the red color are. But then suddenly in 2012, you are seeing the change in the picture. No more red, the renovation is over, and the new space is meeting people's expectations. So I call this, as I said, kind of a leader's thinking, that having the assessment data in a frequent manner like that is something that's important to them. And the blue continues into the following years. The last example I'm going to highlight here about how libraries can improve in future years. It kind of brings forward the experience of what is more typical in what is happening and what has happened in libraries. Not many libraries have been doing surveying every year. There are still libraries that are doing that, but the majority of libraries tend to be a little bit more ad hoc in their approach towards capturing user feedback. However, they are continuing to pay attention to the services. They may be engaged in other design thinking exercises and other approaches to collecting data, and that can be evident in the data because we are seeing that libraries that have done good design and have approached their services thinking about empathy, engagement, and trust are seeing positive results as they move through time, even if they may not have annual data on their user expectations. For example, here, you see a library that had done live call in 2005 and 2007, and you can see progressively better results. And then they took a big gap in the implementation of their survey and came back to it in 2024. A different leader suddenly is presented with a 2024 information. And if they are even having some green on that chart, exceeding people's expectations, and is wondering, is it something we have done that made that change? And the truth is that you can say yes, it's the journey you took and the new services you implemented and the new spaces you've created that is giving you these results, even though you do not have the data on an annual basis. Having that earlier picture from 2007 and 2005 gives you the ability to assert that you have done really better over the years. Now, looking forward, I did reflect quite a bit, and for the last year, we've all been preoccupied a little bit with artificial intelligence and how do we bring that into our assessment practice or into our library practice or into our instructional design and all the other services we offer in the libraries. All of our vendors are engaged with that question. We are trying to decide how to engage the library assessment community in more thoughtful conversations around the use of artificial intelligence in assessment. So I am actually putting a question there that I hope we will get to discuss. Do we need to have a series of webinar discussions next year around the use of artificial intelligence tools in our assessment practices? And I thought a framing that could be useful as we move forward is the Socratic, what is known as the Socratic problem. And what is the Socratic problem? The Socratic problem is very similar to the artificial intelligence problem. So because Socrates left no writings determining the real Socrates requires interpreting conflicting accounts from various sources. Plato's later dialogues are thought to use the character of Socrates to express Plato's own philosophical ideas rather than the historical Socrates' views. So historians have tried to distinguish the historical Socrates from the fictional character by looking for areas of agreement across the different sources. And you can see the parallels with our artificial intelligence tools, products, the derivations we receive, and our efforts to truly understand how much of that is reality and how much of that is fiction and how much is a specific AI point of view. So yes, Socrates was a real person according to most historians. And he did live in Athens and served as a soldier during the Athenian and the Peloponnesian Wars, and he was executed in 399 BC. While he wrote nothing himself, our knowledge of him comes from writings of contemporaries and later philosophers like Plato, Xenophon, and Aristotle, who was a student of Plato. So the details of his life are debated, and this is the Socratic problem. So I think we will be debating in the coming years our assessment results as we engage with artificial intelligence tools in our assessment practice. So I would like to offer this, what is known as the 7 critical thinking rules that underlie Socrates' thinking. It could be some of that Plato, it could be some of that Aristotle, it could be someone else, but that's reality, that's the nature of reality. So these 7 areas: define terms, question assumptions, demand evidence, test consequences, spot contradictions, doubt the obvious, and consider alternatives, are areas I think we need to be discussing as they relate to library assessment practice. And I'll give you some examples. And I hope, as I said, we'll have a discussion of where you see relevance in your own practice in relation to these thinking rules. So, for example, defining terms. We have NISO and ISO committees that spend hours and time developing data dictionaries, developing standardized ways and shared ways of understanding terms. And I think we need to have discussions about how we continue to support these efforts in the future. Our annual library statistics, whether it's public library statistics or academic library statistics, they come together, these communities come together, the public academic libraries, school libraries come together to develop shared definitions of the terms we're capturing and measuring. In terms of questioning assumptions and values, a lot of the library value work is truly about questioning and reshaping organizational culture. For demanding evidence, I will mention to you Kendon Stabb's thought-provoking article, brief article, which is a few decades old now, half a century old, Lies, Dumb Lies, and Library Statistics. I think we need to develop what-if scenarios and test consequences, as right now, as Quality Metrics is trying to reinvent LibCall by, the notion of LibCall open, taking the notion of LibCall open that ARL offered to us as a community. We are testing it to see how it behaves in Qualtrics, how it behaves in Alchemer. We're less convinced that we need custom platforms to deliver this survey or similar surveys in the future. Our standardized survey platforms like Qualtrics and Alchemer have now the capabilities they did not have in 2009. We also want to spot contradictions in the way we want to do research around learning and research and how libraries support these functions. We want to, in a healthy way, doubt the obvious. I think I'm not the only one probably that heard from university administrators questions, are original library resources more important than AI derivative summaries? And it's you may be hearing it more often from younger people, but when it comes from the mouth of administrators, it's a little, it takes you by surprise. But I think some of you may have heard it as well. Is open access saving us money? Or is it that we are paying for the same resources in two different ways? We have to remember that transitions often benefit systemic power holders there. So some discussion around doubting the obvious needs to take place. And I'll, at the end, consider alternatives. How do you truly create systemic change? How do we get to an environment where everything is all open access, for example? Just some examples of how some of the Socrates 7 critical thinking rules can be applied to our own library assessment practice and to shaping our organizations. There is an article, kind of a concept paper, Leo Law and I presented at the Library Assessment Conference, and I'll encourage you to go and take a look at the full article, but I will highlight the ethical. I hope this article takes kind of a balanced view towards AI, not overly enthusiastic, but not overly frightened by, engaging with it. But it does make a distinction between where we are now with artificial intelligence and terms the current period is being dominated with AI-assisted systems that act as tools that augment human decision-making, and a future which may end up being more AI-driven systems that operate more autonomously, making decisions and adapting to real-time data with minimal human intervention. And it offers a series of ethical and practical challenges related to transparency and explainability and the interpretable outputs and how we communicate how decisions are derived, challenges around bias and fairness and the need to have more audits on the work of our assessment practice, challenges around data privacy and security, and the need to have more transparency there, as well as challenges related to accountability and oversight, and the need to have more robust governance there. Since we are in a transition around LibCall, I want to highlight that we are in the process of developing advisory and governance structures around the future implementations of LiveCall. And if you would be interested in shaping that future, or if you are interested in any time in the next 5 years implementing some version of LiveCall, as it may evolve, I hope you will put your name in a registration form I'm going to put in the chat, and be part of our future advisory structures and our future governance. On that note, I'm going to thank you, and I'm going to ask Elena to help me stop. Okay, I can do that. Stop showing my screen. I'm gonna copy that link, go to Elena, should I post it on chat? Can I push it? Yes, I can push it to the entire audience.
Yes, you can.
Excellent. I call this form LiveCall pre-registration, but it basically gives me a chance to have a sense of who from this audience would like to be part of our future discussions around shaping shared access to some of the data. One of the unique elements of LiveCall was that it allowed participants to look at each other's data by asking them not to disclose the institutional identity beyond the access the group had. Oops, sorry. This is actually coming from far away at this point. Shall we encourage people to give us their...
Yes, I was going to say that you have a couple of questions. If you wanted to click on the questions box, there is, I think, 2 questions in there right now. One was a follow-up to something that you said, and somebody else just brought in a question as well.
And do you want to read them?
Go in. The first question is, I'm sorry, what conferences events did she just mention? I think she said it was recently wrapped up in Rochester, but moves around every year.
The Designing Libraries Conference. And I'm going to put that link in the chat too. Designing Libraries.
And then somebody else just sent a message saying that whatever link you just submitted is requiring access. It might be an edit link instead of the fill link.
Yes, probably. That's what it is. And let's see, do I have that still open?
And while she's doing that, we just want to make sure you didn't have any follow-up questions. Looking at the questions box now that you thought of that you want Martha to answer right away. Otherwise, this, like I said, in about 2 business days, this will be on our YouTube channel, and you could always ask any follow-up questions on that platform as well. But if you have any immediate questions and you want to talk directly to Martha, you want to put it in the questions box.
Is this working? Let's see if this is working. Is this link working? I would be interested to hear from you, how do you go about framing the use of AI tools in your library assessment practice?
It said the link still doesn't work.
It still doesn't work. Why? What is the setting that I am not giving you? Oh, okay, it says not shared. Okay, I see that. Let me see if I can get to the root of the problem. Could we have the list of registrants, right?
Yes, we do.
And I think I may need to give it to you to troubleshoot this.
No, that's fine. I probably won't upload the document until tomorrow. So yeah, as soon as you send it to me, I will put it into the document.
Forward it That would be great. Thank you. I'm really glad. And actually, I had posted this link also on the public website. So yeah, I should also mention to you that through the ACRL assessment interest group, we are planning another webinar that will look into some of the historical ways we have looked at assessment. So keep that in mind. How does the framing around the 7 critical rules of Socrates resonate with you? Is this something you can use in your own assessment practice?
We haven't received a response yet, but people might need some time to think and reflect. The other thing is we will also provide your email when we actually upload as well. And so if people had, upon reflection, had some additional questions that they wanted to ask, feel free to respond to Martha directly.
Yes.
So the YouTube channel, let me upload that for you guys. Just a second.
Okay, I did actually copy responder link. Copy, let me see if it says still. Yeah, I'm not sure. Did I forgot to publish it? Accepting responses. Specific. Okay, it goes to specific people. Thank you. I know I see the restriction. Anyone with the link. Okay, finally, you form. No, it still says not share. Maybe I need to refresh it. Let me do some testing here with my colleague Shanika Morris offline, and then I'll get that link to making sure it's working before.
Okay. So a lot of people already took off, but that doesn't mean, like I said, we will get that worked out with Martha. I will upload everything to the YouTube page in 2 business days. So you should be getting all of that in 2 business days. If you have any follow-up questions that you want to, please contact Martha directly. Any questions for me, or if you wanted to be, like I said, the next YouTube interviewee or anything like that, reach out to me directly. Other than that, Martha, I'm going to let them go. And I hope everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.
You enjoy Arizona and the sun there. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.